Hi and welcome to another story, and today we have the first part of a new story, Best Friends by Jacqueline Wilson, starting from chapter 1. Alice and I are best friends. I've known her all my life. That is absolutely true. Our mums were in hospital at the same time when they were having us. I got born first at 6 o'clock in the morning on the 3rd of July. Alice took ages and didn't arrive until 4 in the afternoon. We both had a long cuddle with our mums, and at night time we were tucked up next to each other in little weeny cots. I expect Alice was a bit frightened. She'd have cried. She's actually still a bit of a crybaby now, but I try not to tease her about it. I always do my best to comfort her. I bet that first day I called to her in baby coo language. I'd say, "Hi, I'm Gemma. Being born is a bit weird, isn't it? Are you okay?" And Alice would say, "I'm not sure. I'm Alice. I don't think I like it here. I want my mum. We'll see our mums again soon. We'll get fed. I'm starving." I'd have started crying too, in case there was a chance of being fed straight away. I suppose I'm still a bit greedy, if I'm absolutely honest. Not quite as greedy as Biscuits, though. Well, his real name is Billy McVitie, but everyone calls him Biscuits, even the teachers. He's this boy in our class at school, and his appetite is astonishing. He can eat an entire packet of chocolate hobnobs, munch, crunch, in 2 minutes flat. We had this grand biscuit challenge at playtime. I only managed 3/4 of a packet, and I probably could have managed a whole packet too, but a crumb went down the wrong way and I choked. I ended up with chocolate biscuit drool all down the front of my white school blouse, but that's nothing new. I always seem to get a bit messy and scruffy and scuffled. Alice stays neat and sweet. When we were babies, one of us crawled right into the rubbish bin and played mud wrestling in the garden and fell in the pond when we fed the ducks. The other one of us sat up prettily in her buggy, cuddling golden syrup, her yellow teddy bear, and giggled at her naughty friend. When we went to nursery school, one of us played fireman in the water tank and moles in the sand tray, and she didn't stop at finger painting, she did entire body painting. The other one of us sat demurely at the dinky table and made plasticine necklaces, one for each of us, and sang Incy Wincy Spider with all the cute hand gestures. When we went to infant school, one of us pretended to be a wild thing and roared such terrible roars in class. She got sent out of the room. She also got into a fight with a big boy who snatched her best friend's chocolate and made his nose bleed. The other one of us read Milly Molly Mandy and wrote stories about a little thatched cottage in the country in her very neat printing. Now we're in the juniors. One of us ran straight into the boys' toilets for a dare. She did, really, and they all yelled at her. She also climbed halfway up the drain pipe in the playground to get her ball back, only the drain pipe came away from the wall. They both went crash, clonk. Mr. Beaton, the head teacher, was not pleased. The other one of us got made a form monitor and wore her silver sparkly top to the school disco, with matching silver glitter on her eyelids, and all the boys wanted to dance with her, but guess what? She danced with her bad best friend all evening instead. We're best friends, but we're not one bit alike. I suppose that goes without saying, though I seem to have said it a lot. My mum says it too, also a lot. For heaven's sake, Gemma, why can't you stop being so rough and silly and boisterous? Boy, being the operative bit. To think I was so thrilled when I had my baby girl, but now it's just like I've got 3 boys and you're the biggest tearaway of them all. There's my big brother Callum, who's 17. Callum and I used to be mates. He taught me to skateboard and showed me how to dive bomb in the swimming baths. Every Sunday I'd balance on the back of his bike and we'd wobble over to Grandad's. But now Callum's got this girlfriend, Alicia, and all they do is look into each other's eyes and go kissy kissy kiss, yuck. Alice and I played spies and followed them to the park once because we wanted to see if they did anything even yuckier. But Callum caught us and he turned me upside down and shuggled me until I felt sick. There's my other brother Jack, but he's nowhere near as much fun as Callum. Jack is dead brainy, such a swat that he always comes top in every exam. Jack hasn't got a girlfriend. He doesn't get out enough to meet any. He just holes up in his room, hunched over his homework. He does take our dog Barking Mad out for a walk very late at night, and he likes to wear black and doesn't like garlic bread. Maybe Jack is turning into a Jacqueline. I'll have to check his teeth aren't getting alarmingly pointy. It's annoying having Jack as my brother. Sometimes the teachers hope I'm going to be dead brainy too and get 10 out of 10 all the time. As if. I can do some things. Mr. Beaton says I can talk the hind leg off a donkey, and its front leg, and its ears and its tail. He says I act like a donkey too. I think donkeys kick if you're not careful. I often feel like kicking Mr. Beaton. I get lots of ideas and work things out as quick as my head, but it's so boring writing it all down, so I often don't bother. Or I try to get Alice to write it all out for me. Alice gets much better marks than me for all the lessons, apart from football. I don't want to boast, but I'm in the school football team, even though I'm the youngest and littlest and the only girl. Alice doesn't like sports at all. We have different hobbies. She likes to draw lines of little girls in party frocks, and she writes in her diary with her gel pens, and she paints her nails in all different colours and plays with her jewellery. Alice is into jewellery in a big way. She keeps it in a special box that used to be her grandma's. It's blue velvet, and if you wind it up and open the lid, a little ballet dancer twirls around and round. Alice has a little gold heart on a chain, and a tiny gold bangle she wore when she was a baby, and a jade bangle from an uncle in Hong Kong, and a silver locket, and a Scotty dog sparkly brooch, and a charm bracelet with 10 jingly charms. My favourite charm is the little silver Noah's Ark. You can open it up and see absolutely minute giraffes and elephants and tigers inside. Alice also has heaps of rings. A real Russian gold ring, a Victorian garnet, and lots of pretendy ones out of crackers. She gave me a big bright silver and blue one as a friendship ring. I loved it and called it my sapphire, only I forgot to take it off when I went swimming, and the silver went black and the sapphire fell out. Typical, said Mum, sighing. I think Mum sometimes wishes she'd swapped the cots around when we were born. I'm sure she'd much rather have Alice as a daughter. She doesn't say so, but I'm not daft. I'd sooner have Alice as my daughter. I wouldn't, said my dad, and he ruffled my hair so it stood up on end. Well, it was probably standing up anyway. I've got the sort of hair that looks like I'm permanently plugged into the electrics. Mum made me grow it long, but I kept losing my silly bows and bobbles. Then it got a bit sticky when I went in for this giant bubble-blowing contest with Biscuits and the other boys, and hooray, hooray, my hair had to be chopped off. Mum cried, but I didn't mind one bit. I know you're not really meant to have favourites in your family, but I think I love my dad more than my mum. I don't get to see him much because he drives a taxi, and so he's up before I wake up, taking people to the airport. And often he's out till very late, picking people up from the pub. When he's home, he likes to lie on the sofa in front of the telly and have a little snooze. It's often a long, long, long snooze, but if you're feeling lonely, you can cuddle up beside him. He pats you and mumbles, "Hello, little cuddle bun," and then goes back to sleep again. My granddad used to drive our cab, but he's retired now, though he helps out when the car hire firm need an extra driver. They've got a white Rolls for weddings, and Grandad once took me for a sneaky drive in it. He's lovely, my Grandad. Maybe he's my all-time absolute favourite relative. He's always looked after me, right from when I was a baby. Our mum went back to work full-time just as Grandad retired, so he's acted like my childminder. He still meets me from school. We go back to Grandad's flat, which is right at the top of the tower block. You look out of Grandad's window and you see the birds flying past. It's just magical. On a clear day, you can see for miles and miles across the town, to the woods and the hills of the countryside. Sometimes Grandad narrows his eyes and pretends he's looking through a telescope. He swears he's squinting all the way to the sea, but I think he's joking. He jokes a lot, my Grandad. He calls me funny names too. I'm his little ice gem. He always gives me packets of ice gems, small doll-sized biscuits with white and pink and yellow yummy icing. This annoys Mum when she collects me. I wish you wouldn't feed her, she says to Grandad. She's going to have her tea the minute she gets home. Gemma, you must clean your teeth properly. I don't like you eating all that sugary stuff. Grandad always says he's sorry, but he crosses his eyes behind Mum's back and pulls a funny face. I get the giggles and annoy Mum even more. Sometimes I think everyone annoys my mum. Everyone except Alice. Mum works in the makeup department of Joseph Pilbeam, the big store, and she gives Alice all these dinky samples of skincare products and little lipsticks and bottles of scent. Once, when she was in a really good mood, she sat Alice down at her dressing table and gave her a full grown-up lady's makeup. My mum made me up too, though she told me off for fidgeting. Well, it was tickly. And then my eyes itched and I rubbed them and got that black mascara stuff all over the place, so I looked like a panda. Alice's makeup stayed prettily in place all day long. She didn't even smudge her pink lipstick when she had her tea. It was pizza, but she cut hers up into tiny bite-sized pieces instead of shoving a lovely big wedge in her mouth. If Alice wasn't my best friend, she might just get on my nerves sometimes, especially when Mum makes a big fuss of her and then looks at me and sighs. Still, it's great that my mum does like Alice, because she never minds if she comes for a sleepover at our house. My mum has banned big birthday sleepovers forever. Callum doesn't care, as the only person he'd like to sleep over is Alicia. Jack doesn't care either. He's got a few nerdy, swotty friends in year 9, but they don't communicate face to face. They just email and text each other. I've got heaps of ordinary friends as well as my best friend Alice. Last birthday I invited 3 boys and 3 girls for a sleepover party. Alice was top of the list, of course. We were supposed to play out in the garden, but it rained, so we all had a crazy game of football with a cushion in the living room. Well, not quite all. Alice wouldn't play, and Biscuits is rubbish at games. Someone broke my mum's wedding present, Ladro Lady, and burst the cushion. My mum was so mad she wouldn't let any of them sleep over and sent them all home, except for Alice. I'm still allowed one special friend sleepover one special friend sleepovers, so long as that special friend is Alice. So that's great, great, because I've probably said before, Alice is my very best friend. I don't know what I'd do without her. Chapter 2. I don't know what to do. I'm worried. Something weird is going on. It's Alice. She's got a secret and she's not telling me. We've never ever had secrets from each other before. I've told Alice all sorts of stuff, even dead embarrassing awful things, like the time I thought I could make it home from McDonald's after drinking 2 large Cokes and a milkshake without going to the loo. Alice knows I don't like to sleep without my little rabbit house nightlight because I don't actually like the dark very much. When Grandad had to go into hospital for an operation, I told Alice I was scared he wouldn't get better, though thank goodness he was fine again in no time. Alice has always told me her secret stuff too. She told me when her mum and dad had a big row because her dad drank too much at a party. She told me how she once stole a chocolate toffee from the video shop. It was on the floor, so she hoped it might count as rubbish, but she was still scared it meant she was a thief. She was so worried about it, she didn't even dare eat the toffee. I ate it for her, just so she'd stop worrying about it. She's told me heaps and heaps of stuff, but now she's got this secret. She doesn't know that I know she's got a secret. I found out in a bad way. I read her diary. I know you shouldn't ever read anyone's private diary, especially not your best friend's. I've actually had a peep at Alice's diary several times. Not to be mean and sneaky, it's just so interesting finding out what she's thinking. Like there's a little window into her forehead, and you can peep through into her brain. It's usually lovely because she writes all this stuff about me. Gemma was so funny in class today that even Mrs. Watson burst out laughing. Gemma and I made up our own cartoon story about all the animals in Noah's Ark, and the giraffe stood up too suddenly and made a hole in the roof, and it was raining hard, but the elephants spread their ears to keep Noah and his family dry. Gem gets such good ideas. I was feeling fed up at school today because Mum won't let me have that suede jacket she saw on Saturday, but Gemma shared her chocolate with me and said she'll buy me as many suede jackets as I want when we're grown up. I love it when she writes page after page saying I'm comical and inventive and kind. I love it that she stuck a funny photo of us with our arms around each other at the front of her diary. She's outlined it with silver pen like it's a frame, and then stuck her favourite stickers of flowers and dolphins and kittens and ballet dancers all over the page. This is why I took the tiniest peek at her diary yesterday. We'd had a lovely afternoon making a picture of the flat we're going to share together when we're old enough. Alice seemed a little odd about this at first, but I just thought it was because she's not quite as good at drawing as I am. She perked up when I said we'd cut stuff out of my mum's magazines. She liked choosing and cutting out our twin beds and our huge squashy velvet sofa and our giant fridge and our big white furry rug. She started cutting weeny bright hexagons out of the magazines in different colours to make into patchwork quilts for our beds, with matching patchwork cushions for the sofa. I enjoyed cutting out lots of food to stick into our fridge, although some of the tubs of ice cream and chocolate eclairs were so big they spilled out onto the floor. Imagine a tub of ice cream so big you could stick your whole head inside it to have a good lick. Imagine chocolate eclairs so enormous you could sit astride them, though it might make your knickers a bit sticky. Then I inked eyes and ears and a snout and 4 claws on the big white furry rug, turning it into a real live polar bear for us to cuddle and take turns riding on his back. Alice did get a bit irritated about that. I thought we were going to do this properly, Jem. You're just messing about, she said, opening and closing her little pink mouth every time she opened and closed her scissors. I got a bit irritated too, because she spent ages and ages getting all the colours of her patchwork pieces in place and making them into a pattern. Alice got even more irritated when I had an itchy nose and sneezed and blew all the pieces about before she'd had a chance to stick them down. But that was just us. Ordinary Alice and Gemma fuss. It wasn't like a real quarrel. We don't ever have real proper quarrels. We haven't ever broken friends, not even for half a day. So why won't she tell me this terrible secret? Doesn't she want me to be her friend anymore? She did act a bit weird at tea time. It was a special tea. Even though it was just Mum and Alice and me, Dad was out in his cab working, Callum was round at Alicia's, and Jack had a tray up in his room, because he couldn't be dragged away from his computer. We had Mum's spag bowl, and then fruit salad, and that lovely squirty whippy cream out of a can, and then a handful of Smarties each. I chose all the blue ones, and Alice picked out all the pink. I ate everything up. In fact, I even licked my plate when Mum wasn't watching. Alice didn't eat much at all. She's usually a bit picky about her food, and she loves spag bowl and fruit and cream and Smarties as much as me, so this was definitely a bad sign. She didn't even want to have a who can suck up her spaghetti fastest competition. When my plate was totally empty, Alice was still winding her spaghetti round and round her fork in a thoughtful way, but not actually eating it. "I'll eat yours if you like," I offered, just to be helpful. "You leave Alice's plate alone, Gemma," said Mum. "Just because you hoover yours up in 2 minutes flat. Honestly, you've got the table manners of a starving gorilla." I started monkeying around then, beating my chest and smacking my lips, until Mum got cross, which wasn't really fair because she'd started the gorilla reference. Alice's spag bowl was stone cold by this time, so Mum tactfully removed it. Alice did eat a little fruit salad, though she just pressed one weeny dollop of cream on top. I seriously sprayed my plate, making a cream mountain until Mum snatched the can away. Then we had the Smarties. "Remember we had Smarties stuck all around the icing on our last birthday cake," I said. "Hey, did you get a special wish with every 7th Smartie?" "No, you don't. You just made that up. You only get wishes when you cut your birthday cake," said Alice. "We haven't got a cake, and it isn't our birthday." "We can make a wish any time we want, birthdays or unbirthdays. Come on, Alice, wish with me." We always wish the same wish. "We wish we stay friends for ever and ever and ever," I said. I dug Alice in the ribs with my elbow, and then she said it too, mumbling a little. Then she ducked her head and had a drink of juice. She coughed and spluttered and had to run to the bathroom. "Oh dear, poor Alice, did she choke on a Smartie?" said Mum. "I don't think so," I said. When she came back from the bathroom, Alice's eyes were all red. "I know your eyes water a little bit if you choke, but she looked as if she'd been crying." I didn't think too much of it at the time. Alice is a bit of a crybaby. She cries at the most ridiculous things. She even cries when she's happy, like the time I gave her my grandma's China doll, Melissa. She left it to me when she died. I loved her because she was my grandma's special doll. She'd been her grandma's special doll once upon a time. Melissa was very pretty, with soft brown ringlets and shiny brown eyes with proper eyelashes. I liked flicking her eyelids up and down, making her blink very realistically. Mum got narked and said I'd poke Melissa's eyes out if I wasn't careful. Alice loved my doll too, especially her beautiful white dress and petticoats, and her long, lacy knickers. Imagine wearing knickers way past your knees. I really wanted Melissa to play with her. I'm not at all a girly girl, but I've always liked playing games with dolls. Wild, messy, exciting games. My Barbies trekked through garden jungles and wrestled with earthworms and nearly drowned in torrential rain. I looked at pristine Melissa. Even her little pearl-buttoned suede boots were white. I knew just what she'd look like if I kept her. I suddenly knew what to do. I gave Melissa to Alice. Alice clasped her to her chest, carefully so her clothes weren't crushed, and great fat tears spurted down her cheeks. I got worried in case I'd made a mistake and she didn't really like Melissa. Alice insisted she was crying for joy. I cried tears of anguish, fury and despair later that day when Mum found out. She was so cross with me for giving away Grandma's doll. I wondered if Alice could possibly have been crying tears of joy because of our special Smartie wish, but this seemed a little excessive, even for Alice. She seemed fine again after tea. We watched television together, and when our favourite pop programme came on, we sang along too and did all the dance routines. Well, Alice danced every step correctly. I just jumped up and down and waved my arms around. Callum came and joined in for a bit. He dances even more wildly than me. Alice gets a bit nervous when he does his crazy jive stuff and flings us about, but I love it. Then Callum rushed off around to see Alicia. Alice and I took Barking Mad for a run around the garden. We had one more go at training him to do tricks. When he was a little fluffy puppy, he'd hold out his paw and shake it in this seriously cute way. I got terribly excited and thought we could train him up for our performing wonder dog. Alice and I could be part of an act. I could wear a top hat and tails and give Barking Mad his orders. Alice could wear a frilly ballet frock and be my #1 assistant. However, Barking Mad went barking mad when he got to be a teenager. He wouldn't do any tricks at all. He'd occasionally shake paws if he was in a very good mood and you bribed him with chocolate, but he absolutely refused to dance on his hind legs or turn somersaults or bark happy birthday. He'd bark all right, very loudly and persistently, telling you to woof and stop pestering him. He did that last night when I tried to get him to balance on a flower pot. It was a big flower pot. He could have done it easy peasy if he'd wanted, but he didn't. He got cross about it, that Jack unchained himself from his computer and came stumbling down from the bedroom to rescue him. "Leave him be, you little torturer," he said, hauling Barking Mad away. "I'm simply trying to help him achieve stardom," I said. "I've even thought of a professional name for him. The Dog Star. Do you get it? There's a real Dog Star. And I wish you'd swoop off and live on it," said Jack, dragging Barking Mad back to the house. I mouthed rude words behind his back. Alice giggled. Then we climbed up onto a big branch of the apple tree and traded all the really rude words we knew. I know heaps more than Alice. It was great dangling our legs from the branch. I tried bouncing up and down a bit, but Alice got scared. Then she said she had pins and needles in her bottom and wanted to get down. So we did. Dad's been promising to make a proper treehouse for ages and ages, but he never seems to have time to get so much as started on it. I know Alice would love a treehouse. Then Mum called us indoors and we got ready for bed. We sat in our pyjamas at either end of my bed with a big bowl of popcorn between us. I played at being a sea lion, throwing pieces of popcorn up in the air and catching them in my mouth, while Alice wrote her diary. I wasn't a very efficient sea lion, though I did my best. You keep jogging me, leaping about like that, said Alice. Well, it's difficult, catching popcorn, I said, munching. You'll choke if you're not careful, said Alice, closing her diary. Stop being so giggly. Jem, I want to put nail varnish on now. Come on, I'll do your nails too. Boring, I said. You'll just nag at me for smudging them. So don't smudge them, said Alice sternly. She reached for her nail varnish pot and opened it. You sound just like my mum sometimes, I said, nudging her with my toes. I nudged her a little too enthusiastically. I knocked the big bowl so that popcorn exploded all over the bed. Alice jumped up and spilled pink gloopy nail varnish all over her wrist and up her pyjama sleeve. Oh, Jem! She shrieked. She jumped up and went to the bathroom to try and wipe it off. I did my best to scoop popcorn back into the bowl. It had wriggled its way into everything, even crackling inside Alice's diary. I shook it out, and then had a little weeny glance at what she'd written. And then I read it again. And again. I don't know what to do. I feel so awful. I can't tell Gemma. I simply can't. It has to stay a secret. Yet it's so hard to act like normal, as if we're going to carry on the same old way, like Gemma wished. Best friends forever. Has Alice got a new best friend? Has she simply got sick of me? I couldn't sleep. I wriggled around miserably in the popcorn crumbs, wondering whether to wake Alice up and ask her outright. In the end, I just cuddled up close to her. I twined a lock of her long hair around and round my fingers, as if I was tying her to me forever. And that is where we will leave part 1 of Best Friends by Jacqueline Wilson. I'll be back soon with part 2 of this fantastic story and lots more stories and videos coming your way. If you'd like to subscribe or hit a like, that's always appreciated. I'll be back soon, guys. Thanks for listening. Take care. Bye-bye.